So I've been wanting to wait on this for a while because the beta was still early. I think it's stupid YouTubers are putting out their thoughts like 2 days in. You don't really get a good experience of the beta until you really get an experience of it. So 4 days left in the beta. These are my thoughts on the beta. Let's talk about defense. We're gonna start off with the good, then we're gonna start off with the bad. Same thing for offense. So starting off with the good, shading is significantly better. Like I legitimately feel like when I shade inside, my receivers are playing inside a lot better. Now, of course, as we get into abilities and all that stuff, it's gonna change a lot. But shading for man-to-man defense has improved drastically, and I think that is good. At the same time, this is a good thing for defense. Say you shade it outside and then you run a crosser, you get beat a lot more often. Again, that is a good thing. That should happen. That's a chess match aspect that we want in the game. We want that. So that's great. Pass rush. Holy crap. So we'll put it like this. Pass rush versus blitzes. So in Madden's past, blitzes have been significantly more important than the pass rush, right? And that's how it's been for a long time since I've been playing this game since Madden 13. And this is the most important I've ever seen pass rush. This is the best I've ever seen pass rush. It is that good. Now, the odds that pass rush is going to get patched, it's pretty high. We'll talk about why I think pass rush should get patched from a competitive standpoint later on in this video. I was on team pass rush is good. Now I'm on team pass rush. It needs a little nerf, and we'll talk about that as we get onto the offensive side of the ball. But a little bit more about defense. So zones, okay, fantastic. They did such a good job on zone coverage this year. Like great job. Like, yes, well freaking done, EA. And this is truly well done on zones this year. They are really good. They're playing very well. Now, given we've only had like 2 weeks to really get into the game, and with Madden Ultimate Team, you're restricted to Rams offense, Ram defense, and that's it. So you really can't dive into lab a whole lot unless you want to play a lot of regs. So defense is very good. Defense is actually viable this year. There is going to be defense as we start to learn this game a lot better. Again, the beta, it's not really a good time to lab because first off, you're limited to time, you're limited to modes, and when you do get into Ultimate Team, you're limited to abilities, you're limited to cards. You're just super ultra limited, and so it's a waste of time to be labbing, in my opinion, really heavily labbing in a beta when the odds are the game is going to change slightly. That's the good about the defense. Zones are fantastic. Shading is very good. So you're definitely going to be using that a lot in Madden 23. Now let's get to the bad side of defense. Zone drops. Zone drops have been an issue for a long time. When they introduced them, they were a fantastic idea, but poorly implemented. As we get into the red zone, so we got 20 yards till we get to the goal line, right? You set your zone drops to 30. There is technically 30 yards of field that your defenders have to play. But again, zone drops do not have them playing into the end zone. So they will stop at the goal line. Why that is it's beyond me. Because if I have a 30-yard flat out there for a 30-yard corner out, I want him to play to the end zone. Like, it's not that difficult. Just make them play to the end zone and make sure they recognize the end zone is field also, because it is. It's more field that they need to cover, and they need to recognize that. So if they can fix that, I'll be super content. I'll be perfectly happy with zone drops. Like, I will love the defense this year. I think defense will be fantastic. In fact, I think this year is going to be just a straight defense, not much offense. You're not going to see high scoring games as we get into it, but that's really the only bad thing I've got. Like, that's legitimately my only complaint. Our zone drops are still not playing the back of the end zone. So that includes as you get inside the 10, you have them set to 20. Again, they play to the goal line. That is the biggest complaint I have for Madden 23. I hope they fix that. The other complaint, this is kind of minor, and this is something where, well, actually, this is a positive. Let's talk about the positive on defense. User movement is better. It feels a lot more fluid. You don't lose as hard of an acceleration. You don't lose your speed as harshly if you commit to the pass or to that specific route late like you did in Madden 21 and 22. So the user is, I think, a lot better. One other bad thing is swatted down balls are still a thing. Tipped drop passes are still a thing. Uh, so that's all the bad. Other than that, I think defense is viable this year. There is hope for defense this year. Again, this is a beta, so things are going to go ahead and change. And yes, I know you've seen this game already, but this is just a really quick game I wanted to pull. It's because it's a shorter one. I'm not going to have a lot to talk about in this video. But that's everything bad. That's everything good on defense. That's everything bad on defense. They've improved a lot from Madden 22. There's still some things they definitely need to tweak, and some, I don't know if you can call them sliders that they need to change, but there definitely needs to be some tweaks to bat it down and drop picks, given they really are going to push abilities this year. Push. Heavy. I think this is going to be the most we're going to see abilities push the entire year, which is scary. Now, talking about offense. At the very beginning of this video, I talked about how pass rush needs nerfed from a competitive standpoint. Okay, let me clarify this before some of you people jump down my throats. You know who you are. In the competitive game mode and in the NFL, receivers have routes, right? Whether it's a 5-yard flat route, a 10-yard out route, a 20-yard corner route, or a 30-yard crosser. It does not matter. Each receiver has its particular route that it's going to run. This is where we started running into issues with pass blocking. Pass blocking is very bad. Now, they are aware of super wins. They're aware that that's ultra consistent, and it shouldn't be, and they know that. So that's going to be fixed. But the pass rush is to the point where it's so good that even a little flat route, you barely have time for a flat route to develop. And that is bad. Now, understanding that, it's good at the same time because we shouldn't have the time to hit 30-yard crossers every single time. But this can make it really tricky, and this is where zone drops, I think, come back into play. And again, we've talked about how they're good, how they're bad, how zones are really good, how shading is really good. So we're not going to focus a whole lot on that. But from a competitive standpoint, the pass rush, it does need nerfed. The reason for that is because this year, I guarantee cover 3 is going to be the meta. Now, man defense at the very beginning of the year is always the meta because nobody has any consistent man beating routes. We're all still trying to figure out this game. So man defense at the beginning of the year in and year out, it's always the meta at the start of the year. Trust me, this is how it's going to be Madden 23. Start of MUT, it's going to be man defense because nobody has man beating routes. So that should be your main focus when you get into practice mode. Find man beating routes and figure out why you're going to go ahead and run. You're going to be in a lot better situation when you know man-beating routes than when you don't. So pass rush, it needs nerfed because I shouldn't get 2 seconds. I should have more than 1 to 2 seconds to make my reads. It is humanly impossible to look at the entire defense and make a read all under 2 seconds. That ain't happening. To be able to read a defense that fast, you've got to have fast eyes, and you got to have quick reaction, but then you also have to have good pass protection. Now, having said that, before you guys say, you just suck at the game, blah, 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 I have been running 2 post-ups on both of my guards. Neither of them work consistently. Now, this is from just playing Madden Ultimate Team from when it came out. Post-ups are not good. Big reason is because double team is ultra inconsistent to the point where I'd almost say do not use the double team mechanic in the beta because it is that bad. As an example, and of course I can't show you this, but I was going against a defensive line user, okay? And I was double teaming him every single time. He had no abilities. I had post up on both of my guards, none on my center, but post up, it works as a double team. So I double team the user. The post up ability lineman or guard in this case engages. The center does not. Now that was for that entire game, but then I go into the next game and all of a sudden it's like the double team magically works. So I don't know. Maybe there's something that we don't know about. D-line users just don't get double teamed ever. Who knows? I feel like EA is definitely going to start catering more and more to the casual players as the year goes on. So who knows? The year of the D-line user might be back. Whew, that's a scary thought to think. But Double team needs work done. It needs to work every single time. It's a basic mechanic that should work because when we are running into post-ups, and post-ups work, they work when the double team works, but because the double team's inconsistent, they don't work. So it can be a headache in that situation, whether or not you like it or don't. I personally don't until they get it to work consistently. Next thing that I don't like, I do not like that we have to have an ability to throw a low ball. I don't like that. I think it's dumb. Like they're putting way too much. Like they put way too much emphasis on low point passes because low point and high points both serve their purpose. A low point is good because if your receiver is underneath the defender, they get inside leverage. A low point pass pretty much guarantees that you're going to make that catch because he already has inside leverage. Therefore, low pointing it to the ground makes the defender harder to react to the ball, and that's how it should be. That's how it's always been. There's ways to guard low ball passes. English is tough some days. So they shouldn't make it an ability. I get why, because low ball wheel routes all year long, they were good. But in previous Maddens, the low ball was still good, but there are ways you can go about countering it with like shading underneath. And now that we have zone drops, etc. So I think it's dumb. I think there should not be an ability. Now, the biggest complaint I have, this really applies to MUT, not so much, not even at all for regs, okay? The AP system. It needs, like, oh boy, I'll just say it right now. It is 12 AP in MUT, and I promise you, that is not going to change at the start of Madden 23. It is 12 AP for defense and offense. Hot Route Master is 5 AP. I don't know how much Gunslinger is. I don't know how much Pass Lead Elite is, but from my understanding, you will not be able to have both of them, and you will need both of them, unless, this is going back to why Pass Rush needs a nerf, unless the Pass Rush gets nerfed, then you will need both of them. If the Pass Rush gets nerfed, then you won't, and you can actually make a good read. But the problem is the windups are so slow this year that you will need both of them to be able to make a pass completion. And especially with how tight zones are, you will need both of them. So this, again, this is more applicable to MUT. Please, they need to boost the AP up to 18, okay? Because with man defense always being good at the beginning of the year, route tech really isn't a thing, and so that's why you got to find a consistent man beater or a route that beats man defense, such as dig routes, out routes. Those still beat man defense. We talk about kind of like flood. It still works. But they need to boost the AP system just simply because we need abilities for passing to work. And you're going to need Pass Lead Elite, and you're going to need Gunslinger to make certain passes in tight coverage. So that's why Pass Rush is a bad thing, because you can't get the ball. Like, even when you've got the read, say you got the read down in 1 second, like, bam, he's open. The windup takes so long that the Pass Rush gets home before you're actually able to get the ball out. That's why it's bad. The second issue is because the windup is so slow, defenders have eyes in the back of their heads. Now, if you've played a beta for Madden 23, I was actually talking to one guy on Twitter. I don't know why I bother going on Twitter, because just, I swear, idiots on there. He's like, the game always changes. If you've played a beta for Madden, you know the game barely changes at launch. There might be a few things here and there that are tweaked, but generally speaking, how the beta is how the game's going to be at the beginning of the year until the first patch, and then who knows what's going to happen from there. So the game is not going to change a whole lot. How the beta is, there might be a few tweaks here and there. Usually it's to Pass Rush. Okay, Pass Rush is usually the first thing that gets touched. If it is going to get touched, that's the first thing to go. And then zones. Zones and Pass Rush are generally the first things to get touched. But everything else, yeah, nothing's going to change with that. So Pass Rush needs a wind down until we get abilities. Now, when we're able to afford both Pass Lead Elite and Gunslinger, then yeah, go ahead. I don't mind the Pass Rush. But because the windups are so slow, we need the Pass Rush to be slowed down. Now, for you guys that play Sim or play Franchise Mode and you just play with friends, have at it. And if it's in simulation mode, man, keep the pass rush as is. They need to utilize simulation, arcade, and competitive mode like 50 times more than they are. Like when they introduced it, I was excited, but they aren't using it like they should. They aren't using it at all, pretty much, which is unfortunate because it could cater to a lot of different players, which is what it was intended for, but it's just not. So, yeah. I'm trying to think. That's really the bad thing about offense is just the quarterback wind up and the time of the pocket. Even when you have post-ups, they just seldom, they don't really provide you enough time. They still get shedded really quick. Even though they have an ability, it just seems like it doesn't really work all too well. So, I'm trying to think. I think that's pretty much it. That's it for gameplay itself. I mean, there's not a whole lot of really bad things I've got to say about Madden 23. I wish they put less emphasis on abilities and more emphasis on core gameplay, but that's how this game's going to be from here on out, pretty much. Now, getting into kind of like user interface, the UI portion of it, this isn't really a big deal, and you're probably going to quit listening after this. It's slow. It seems like every single year, it's always slow. Like, I don't know what they do, if they do anything with the UI, but it always seems like it's just slowed at the beginning of the year, and then it just speeds up magically over the year. Just make it faster, like make the load time shorter. And this is just nitpicking at this point, okay? I'm getting really picky about stuff, but make the load time shorter, make the menu faster, actually snappy. That'd be nice because it's just, I don't want to be a menu guy, okay? I don't want to be taking 5 minutes to just load into my binder or just to get from the main part of the menu all the way over to my item binder. I don't want to be doing that, okay? Make it snappy. You're using next-gen consoles. They got the power to make the menu snappy, okay? They got the power to do so. Yeah, I really can't think much more. Like, that's it. That's pretty much my thoughts about the Madden beta. It does end on June 20th unless they extend it, which really doubt they're going to go ahead and extend it. Again, I promise you, man defense, I swear, I don't know on what, but I promise you, man defense is going to be the meta at the beginning of the year. Why? Because nobody has man-beating routes. If you can figure out man-beating routes in Madden 23, you're going to be golden for like probably the first 2 weeks. Okay, first 2 weeks of the game, and then you get those sweaties. You get us sweaties that are in the labs and just obsessed with this game that figure out man-beating routes, and then man defense becomes obsolete to us. So, first 2 weeks, I guarantee you, it's man defense is going to be the heavy meta because it just relies on speed. It's pretty much all it is. Keep everything up and just make sure you got the speed on the field. So, anyways, let's talk a little bit about this gameplay. We've already broke it down a little bit. We're going to do a little bit more breakdown right here. This is Clef versus Noah. Oh, one final thing. I already talked about low balls. So, here's one more thing, which I don't understand why they did this, but it's kind of weird. Hot route wheel routes are the seam wheel routes, like you think like mesh spot, mesh post. It's that kind of wheel route. When you hot route it, it doesn't make much sense to me. So yeah, I take it how you want. One other thing that you need to be aware of. I'm thinking about this stuff, of course. Deep out elite. We know how good it is in Madden 22, and it's really good in Madden 23. High point passes. This is something that needs nerfed. High point passes from an offensive standpoint are way too powerful. They need nerfed. So, yeah, just because I have deep route KO getting agged on. But anyways, that's for a separate video. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, you can see we're watching Mudhead, of course. Hit that subscribe button. The video popping up right now is a recent breakdown. Actually, I believe it was actually this very game. But that's my thoughts on the beta. You guys go ahead and check out this other video. Subscribe if you are new. And we will catch you guys in the next one.